And welcome back to the TSF Entertainment channel. It is your boy Retro CG, and I am joined by Miss Really BTV in the house. What's up, my girl?
What up? What up?
How you doing?
I'm good. Unfortunately, it's my last day of vacation, but it's all good. It's all good.
Tell me about it. These last moments of enjoyment.
Right.
Back to the work life.
Last moments of peace before you go back to the real world.
hmm Tell me about it. So we over here to talk about the best man, the final chapters. We're on episode 3. It's called The Brown Girl Dreaming. I'm gonna hit you with that intro real quick, and we'll be back to break down this episode for you guys. And welcome back to the channel. All right, so we're on episode 3, Best Band, the final chapters. How are you feeling about it so far?
I'm here for this episode. Fast forwarded, so they're moving the story along, and I'm here for that. Like I'm cool with that.
Are you
I don't know if I'm
enjoying?
cool with the direction that the stories are going in, but I
Uh-oh.
like the fact that they fast forwarded us.
Yeah, they did fast forward it, and that was one of the things that we originally had concerns about or questions about,
Right.
starting off in 2014. So what it appears to be, um, the events of Best Man Holiday started us off in the first 2 episodes. And so
Right.
now we're at 2015, 16. I think what 5 years forward now.
Yeah, we're 2021. We're like post pandemic now.
Okay,
Yeah, we done went through Obama, Trump, pandemic. We're like them coming, everybody coming out of the pandemic, right?
I like how they mashed that up because they gave us a glimpse of things that were happening in the real world during those times,
Right.
plus things
Right.
that were happening in the Best Man universe as well. The things that were going on with them, like Harper.
Give us a timeline.
Yeah, they gave us a timeline because I think Harper's trying to put out a new book. Robin's Nest, which is her food kitchen thing. Um, Candace is working on her PhD,
Right.
and Quentin is dealing with coming into managing the family brand. And I think we even seen where he was having some struggles with the shutdown, and
Yeah.
how it affected his business.
Yeah. They had just opened up a brand new resort in France. And it was like the first time that company had gone into France or something like that. And then it closed, because of COVID, it closed.
And then we're looking at Shelby, who is kind of doing a rebranding of herself. We see that she's less focused on the housewife thing, and she's growing her brand.
Yeah.
We see Jordan is continuing to build her pathway to success with her career. She's producing a new show called The Culture, which it's a black hosted show.
It's
Um,
like The View. It's like a
yeah,
Black View or like The Talk or whatever. Yeah. But it looks like what happened was she had hired this black woman to have her own show and then had to cancel the show, but still gave her a slot on this variety type show.
and we see that she is dealing with the fallout of that
Right.
because it looks
Right.
like she ended up having to drop uh, the lady that she had casted for the show, and I think they
Well,
were. Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ma.
Oh, well, what I was saying, what I was thinking, and I could be wrong. It looks like it's when you saw where she had hired this black woman, and I guess she was supposed to be like a Gayle King type person or Tamron Hall, and gave her own show. But then the network either canceled the show or they had to cancel the show and she still found a way. Like, she was giving her a job, and people were still like, Black Twitter was coming for her like she's a sellout, and she was doing wrong by by this Black queen or this journalist or whatever. And in her mind, she was like, but I saved her. Like,
Yeah.
the network, the network. But maybe I misunderstood that, but that's how I kind of read that.
We also see where Lance is kind of struggling to find his place now.
Poor Lance. He just don't know where he want to go.
He's selling used cars.
Wow.
He's trying to do sports talk.
Lord.
He's trying to do cologne commercials.
He tried to kill Stephen Smith.
Well, I can't say that I blame him for that.
Well, listen, Stephen Smith will take you to that breaking point.
Yeah, he's a bit of a handful.
Yes, he is.
We see that he's trying to do cologne commercials, and it's interesting that he kind of reached out to Jordan for a little bit of advice on, what should be his next move career-wise. And she's like, listen, I'm in the middle of pre-production. I really don't got time to focus on you. Can you find somebody to be your sounding board right now? Because I got some things I got going on over here, and I ain't really got time to help you figure out what's your next move in life. She's like, you got money and everything. Find something that you're passionate about doing and build off of it. We also get introduced in this episode, Lance Jr., which is his oldest son. And we see that he's an intern for Jordan. And so we're starting to get a little bit more of what direction they're going with Lance's character. It seems like his father wants him to follow in his steps as far as being a football player. You kind of see Lance is not really interested.
He's good, but it doesn't look like that's his passion.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that's his thing. It almost looks like he's trying to do it to appease his father.
Yeah.
So is that safe to say that he's more so interested in getting into television and, because he's doing an internship with Jordan. So
I think he might be trying to figure it out. I don't know if he has the answer yet, but I think that he has decided that football isn't his passion.
Yeah. Well, we could see that. We could just see that by his mannerisms when the trainers came over to the house and everything, and they was telling him what he needed to work on for his game. You could just see the look on his face that he didn't seem to be too like, whatever.
Right.
So I'm interested in seeing where they're going to go in that direction. Let's talk about Robin and Harper. We continue to see them trying to find what direction they're going with their marriage and their individual careers. It almost seems like at this point, their individual careers are kind of clashing with the marriage per se on what they want to do. Robin seems to want to be more involved in community things, giving back. She's doing different type of outreach things with her food kitchen. And Harper is really wanting to, which we've seen this from The Best Man. So we know this is not something new for Harper's character. Harper is wanting to take his writing in a different direction, and he wants to be renowned more so as not that author that writes those controversial type books, but he wants to sit on a panel that he's a well-respected author.
And the thing is, he's kind of always said that. Like, you can go back to The Best Man, and he's kind of always said that he doesn't really want to do this genre.
Yes.
Forever.
It's what's made him money, and it's what's made him popular, but now he wants to grow beyond that. And I don't necessarily think that's a selfish move. That's called growth.
Yeah, and I think they're doing a really good job of showing us, how you meet couples and you're like, oh my gosh, they're the perfect couple, or they really got it going on, or they're blah, blah, blah. And then 10, 15 years later, they're telling y'all that they're getting a divorce. And you're like, wait a minute, but I thought y'all had everything. You had the good career and the kids and the money, and y'all always look like y'all were happy. And I honestly think that's kind of what we're seeing with the two of them. They're doing a really good job of showing us how they're growing apart.
Yeah.
And it's not that anybody's doing anything wrong. Like, nobody's cheating, nobody's being disrespectful. They're just literally evolving in different directions, and their priorities are different. Harper wants to move out of Harlem. he wants to get a bigger house. He said, I want more space and I want to put my kid in a better school district. And, he wants to move to the Upper East Side. And, Sanaa Lathan's character wants to stay in Harlem because she's like, this is where I'm, how important it is for me to be in the community and basically be in this space. She wanted to move permanently to the islands, right? So she's already compromised because she really wanted to move. And you see it fast forward 5 years and they didn't move.
Yeah.
They might not even ever been back. Who knows? But we see that.
Of course, she did say that in the last episode that what if we just stayed here permanently? Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, she wanted to move. She and he told her we'll think about it. But you could tell he never really took that seriously. He was kind of like, yeah, right, moving here, yeah. And she was like, but I really, this is where I feel alive, and the being around the people and the food and the sounds and the smells. And she was really passionate about it. And he was like, yeah, right, we are not moving. Child by, we are not, like it was real. You could just see it on his face that he was not serious about it. He was just pacifying her. And even when the same thing with the house, she has no interest in moving into that house at all. Yeah, but
she was not feeling
going to kind of give in, right? She's going to kind of give in to sort of pacify him because they do still love each other, and she wants to make him happy, even at the expense of what makes her happy. But he's not wrong for wanting to move into a better neighborhood, and a better house, and a better school district. But she's not wrong for wanting to stay in Harlem and say, hey, just because we can afford to don't mean we have to. You know what I mean? Like, neither one of them are wrong.
And this is a real life topic that a lot of marriages do, especially when you are dealing with marriages where both have individual careers and individual career goals, that sometimes there is no compromise, even though marriage is all about compromising. But if you have a vision where you want to grow and go as far as your career is concerned, and the other person that you're married to has a vision and a career and a goal and where they want to go, and if they don't kind of meet in the middle, then somebody's going to have to sacrifice. Somebody's going to have to sacrifice in order to bring peace to the marriage. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing with them, because if he does get this house, it's not because she really wanted it. It's because, like you said, she's compromising her own happiness in order to please him. If they don't get the house and stay in Harlem, then he's compromising his wishes and dreams just to make his wife happy. So we do see where this could possibly pull them apart. And I think that's a very
and I think we're seeing
that a lot of marriages face.
Absolutely. And I think we're seeing something similar with Munch and with his wife, but it's different. We're seeing them going through the growing pains of her again evolving. She's in school getting her, PhD. She's getting into holistic medicines. She was like, not just marijuana, but I'm looking at all different types of like holistic, medicines. And again, you see where Munch is sort of picking up the slack, taking the kids to practice, picking the kids up from school, going to the recitals, while she's really, it's almost like a role reversal of the traditional idea of marriage, right? He's basically, and he's working. It's not like he's sitting at home all day, but he's picking up a lot of that slack. So again, you can sort of see the kinks and what they have. Not something that can't be worked out and fixed, but we're seeing the kinks and seeing how they're just sort of settling into this space. And if they don't communicate about how they're feeling and talk about it, it can fester and blow up. And then next thing you know, is divorce,
But the difference in what we see with Murch and Candace is true support. Murch is truly supporting her in her endeavors in trying to go back and get her PhD in the holistic medicine and all of that. He's actually supporting that. So there's not a push and pull with them. It's like, hey, what can I do to help you out, babe? I got you. I got the kids. I'm going to take her to violin practice. I'm going to do whatever I can do to make what you're working on so you can keep focused.
Right.
So you can keep focused, because ultimately at the end of the day, the goal is for her to kind of take it to the next level. And they really did a very good job with her character. They have really did a very good job.
I think they're doing a good job, because you've been married. I haven't, but that happens, and I've seen it happen. Like I just said, I've seen it happen with my friends, and obviously I mean, not to get in your business, but obviously you went through something,
Yeah.
because people don't get married to get divorced. So I think they're doing a good job of showing that progression. You know what I'm saying?
Especially in young marriages. When you get married at an early age and you grow with that person, one or two things are going to happen. Either you two are going to grow together as a couple, or you're going to grow apart. And
Right.
if you are a person that's used to having a certain level of independence and being able to make your own decisions without incorporating other people's feelings, it's kind of hard when you have that person that stands beside you, that walks with you, that you have to take into consideration their feelings. You have to take into consideration on how your actions affect theirs. And I think that was
Hmm.
one of the biggest issues in my marriage is lack of compromise. And sometimes you see an opportunity that's best for you, and that's all you see. You get tunnel vision and say, hey,
Hmm.
you don't want me to grow, or you don't want me to have uh, an opportunity that's good for me. But is it an opportunity that's just going to be good for me as an individual, or is this opportunity going to be good for us as a marriage, as a couple, as we grow together? And they're doing a very good job showing that how the inner lives between these couples that we met back in the 90s, now here in 2022, 23, whether they're growing together or they're growing apart. And I think what we're seeing with Merch and Candace's characters, they're growing together. What we're seeing with Harper and Robin, they're they look like they're growing apart. They do look like they're growing apart. And it's not because we don't love each other, it's because our focus is on our careers and where we want to see those go.
Hmm.
And the marriage is kind of in the middle of that. And until one of them pulls back from growing their career, we're probably going to see this tug of war between the two of them.
Yeah.
And the biggest part about it is they have a child, because we saw Harper's reaction to her taking their daughter Mia to the protest,
Right.
and he wasn't feeling that. And I can't say that he was wrong for that.
I was gonna say I was with him 100% on that one. I mean, first of all, you take the child to the protest, and then you're so worried about being right that you don't take into consideration that your child is watching you get arrested and watching you be manhandled. Now you might have been right. The police may have been wrong 100%, but in that moment,
That
what
wasn't the
is the
environment
bigger
for a
what is
child.
the bigger concern? Right. Sometimes it's not a you don't sometimes it's not about winning the argument if you really lose. And in that case, I feel like she really lost, because now you created a fear. Like, we all know that this world is dangerous when it comes to black people and the police. Like, we get it. And I believe that parents have, especially black parents, have a responsibility to their kids to let them know, yes, the police are there to help us. Yes, the police are play a resource, but also let them know you have to act in a certain way, unfortunately. So I do believe that that's a responsibility of black parents. But what I also feel like is that that's not the way to teach them that lesson. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I just
Especially at
didn't,
such
again,
a young age.
yeah, yeah. Because again, taking kids to a protest, I mean, kids, I'm not so upset about that part, but it's the part where, because it sounded like there was a point where she could have de-escalated, and she did, when they were arguing after he picked her up, and he said, um you something he said to her, and she was like, well, that cop didn't have any rights, that cop didn't, he was wrong, and that cop didn't, he didn't have to the way she, in my opinion, the way she said it made me feel like there was a point where she could have de-escalated or walked away, and she chose not to because she felt like she was right. I mean, did you get that? Maybe that's me.
That's exactly the way I felt, because even though they didn't show us the scene of the protest, but you have to imagine and think that once you saw that the police was involved, as a responsible parent, you would probably need to say, hey, you know what, the police is getting involved, let me remove me and my child from this situation, because
Yeah.
I don't know where this is going to go next. I don't have control of this situation anymore. So I agree with Harper's reaction to the thing. She seemed to, and this goes back to what I was saying about, she is just so focused. She has tunnel vision on, it's all about what she wants to do. but she's not really thinking about the repercussions that it's going to have on her husband, her husband's career, her own career, and the effects that it could have on her daughter. Because at an early age, seeing your mother or a parent getting arrested by the police and living in the world that we live in right now, that, you know, Black people are at risk at any point in time that they are involved with law enforcement, you know, that could have had a drastic outcome on that child's perception of the police going forward, and could make problems for her at a later age. Now, if this child was a little bit older, a teenager, and shared her mother's passion and vision about this, then that was a choice that that child was allowed to make. But making that choice for that child at such an early age, and not even consulting with your husband about it, and he having to go pick you up from the police department, I can understand Harper's reaction to that. I would have reacted the same way. But we see Robin was just she ain't budging.
But in the end, she did agree to move into the bigger house. But again, it's not what she really wants. And so I think, I mean, of course, I haven't watched further, but I think that we're not done with that, because again, I feel like she gave in, because ultimately I think she felt guilty because she knew that maybe she was wrong, and maybe she went a little too far. Even in the argument, I think maybe she went a little too far in her mind. You know, she might have felt like that. So it was like, okay, you know what? Let me just go ahead. We're going to move.
And give in.
Give him what he wants. You know, and so she didn't agree because she changed her mind. She agreed to end the argument.
Exactly. But I kind of agree with you on that. I think that we haven't seen the end of this whole house thing. I think that there's going to be a reaction, a delayed reaction to all this later on down the line. That this is a perfect example of how, if things aren't dealt with in real time, they can fluster and lead to bigger arguments, bigger disagreements on down the line, because you really didn't want to move to this place. Now that we're here, you know, it's going to be a big argument later on down the line about this house. But I really didn't want to move here to begin with. So I think that right there, giving in that moment, is not going to give them a happily ever after scenario. I think we're going to be into an argument again about this household situation.
Right.
I agree.
Now, on the flip side, I love what we saw with Quentin and Shelby. I love that I was almost expecting to see, fast forward 5 years, and to see them in this apartment throwing shit at each other and hollering and arguing. But and again, I haven't seen further, but in this moment, fast forwarding 5 years, they're in a good space. Like, he's struggling. He's, you know, stressed out about the business, you know, being in trouble. I mean, when we saw them back, when the fellas were playing poker, he was like, I damn near went bankrupt. Like, I damn near lost all of it.
Yep.
And, you know, my dad turned it over to me, and I'm basically screwing it up. And it was interesting is that he didn't make any excuses for himself. He didn't say, well, you know, I did go through this pandemic, and well, you know, when my dad did, no, he was like, I'm
ownership
it up. And she was 100% there and supporting him. She wasn't making no smart comments. She wasn't like, well, I tried to it was like, we saw the exact opposite of almost what I really expected to see with them. And I'm here for it. Like, I appreciate, again, we see the growth. And like what I said to you offline, when you finally let that guard down and you finally say, okay, you know what? I'm going to open my heart. I'm scared, you know, been hurt before, but I'm going to open it up. It's a lot of that other extra shit goes away. The combativeness, the pettiness, it goes away, because all of that was part of the protection you had up. You know what I'm saying?
It also gives me a different outlook on the last 2 episodes, where we were kind of like, you know, Shelby's doing the most.
Yeah.
But it kind of almost makes it seem like, you know, she truly was in love with this man. She truly didn't want to let him go. I was here for how their characters have grown. Yeah. Because I expected a Cookie and Lucius type situation in
right, right, Cookie and Lucius. And maybe that's why I was expecting to see them throwing shit at each other or something. Yeah. But it almost makes me like ask myself, how hard would you be willing to fight? Like, right. If you knew how you felt about this person, and you knew in your heart of hearts that he felt the same way, how hard are you willing to fight? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that she's supporting her husband and she's not that nagging wife and she's not sitting here counting money and she's not here just like, being a nuisance to him. She's being a support system. Well, what can I do to help? And at the same time, we also see growth in her character where
You
she's
took the
trying to
word
grow,
right out of my mouth. You took the word. Go ahead though.
beyond that housewife
Mm-hmm.
franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And now she has a product line. She has things that she's trying to do. She's still got a little spiciness to her that makes her Shelby. That's part of her character. That's part of her personality. But at the same time, we see her trying to do it a different way. We even see it to a point where Jordan realizes that, wait a minute, I might have something with my homegirl right here. And she brings her in
Mm-hmm.
and makes her a part of the show. Now, the original production meeting and focus group didn't give her high scores on the pilot that they did for the show. However, she took that feedback back to her friend, and I expected Shelby to just totally blow up and start throwing things and cussing and fussing. But again, she handled it very well. And Jordan told her, look, I'm not firing you. I just think that you need to retweak yourself a little bit. And she brought it back and she nailed it.
And let me tell you what I loved about that as well. I agree 100%. We saw growth in Shelby, that she took the criticism, she internalized it, she fixed it, and because she was like, I want this. But here's what I loved. I love that friendship between her and Nia Long, because that's a real friendship right there. Nia Long was like, listen, this is my homegirl. I want this for her, but I also got to preserve my job. I love the fact that she didn't try to skirt it. She didn't play no games. And because that's, again, I was kind of waiting for that rom-com type, writing where she's going to lie to her and then she's going to find out she lied and then their friendship is going to blow up. No,
Yep.
She went to her and said, girl, they don't like you. And what I also love is that Shelby was like, all right, I get it. You got to fire me. Like, that's that friendship right there, that she wasn't like, well, you in charge. You the boss. You my best friend. You going
She
to
didn't make it
fire
personal.
me?
She didn't
She
make it
was
personal.
cool with the decision. Like, she understood you have to do what you got to do. And I'm okay with it. And I love the fact that Nia Long was like, I'm not going to fire you. We're going to fix it because I know you can do this. I loved it. I love that. This episode, out of the 3 so far, this was probably one of my favorite. Like, if I had to rank them, I would probably rank this number 1 because I really love the writing in this. Like, the writing so far, and I know they're going to probably piss me off at the end, but I mean, at different parts. I ain't going to say at the end, but at different parts. But the writing in this, they did a really good job of showing,
Growth.
in my opinion, healthy relationships, and even where good relationships start to go left, and you say, whoa, like you can see it. But I love that moment because that's some real friendship right there.
Yeah.
Like, look, I want this opportunity for you, but you got to fix some things. And for her to say, okay, be willing to give it up. So I was loving that. I was definitely here for all of that.
If I had to rate this episode for a theme, I would think that it would be called growth. The episode is called Brown Girl Dreaming, but I really think that the episode should have been titled Growth because we see also with the fellas. Let's go back to the Best Man when they were having their the first card game that we saw with them. It was a different vibe. It was a different type of play.
It was very catty. Q's character was very catty and petty, looking for some drama.
Exactly. But what we see in this version, this card game, we see growth. We see them talking about their personal lives, their careers, and all of them were in support of each other. All of them were.
All of them were there. Yeah. Yep.
All of them were there to give their advice, and not only their advice, but perspectives from their wives. Because Murch was kind of, he's kind of co-signing with Harper as far as Harper's vision to want to rebrand himself and grow and become a different type of artist. Q talked about his business and his struggles,
Right.
And then at the same time, Lance is, trying to figure out what he wants to do next.
Lance at the end decided that he need to go back and play football, which is not the answer.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say the same thing. I don't think that's the right. I think it's running back to what I'm safe with, running back to what I know.
Right.
But not really looking deep within myself and say, what else can I do beyond football?
Because I like the idea that Jordan gave him about maybe doing a podcast
Yeah,
or even him coaching. Like, you think you got all the answers, because the way you saw the way he was talking to his son, it was sort of aggressive, but he knew what he was talking about.
which takes me back to the whole coach thing. I think that would be a perfect place for him to land.
Yeah.
Because you need that type of aggression when you're coaching athletes, but at the same time, he was speaking truth to his son. But what he lacked in seeing in that conversation was his son's disinterest.
Right. But and I love, I think more and more we're seeing these top tier athletes going into coaching. We've always seen athletes go into coaching, but a lot of times it wasn't the top tier ones. It wasn't the ones that made multi-million dollars. It was the ones that kind of, were in the middle a little bit, that probably learned a lot because they were in and out and they moved around a lot. But now we're starting to see, Ed Reed, he just became the head coach of, Morris Brown, of course, Deion Sanders. In basketball, we're seeing a lot of these former players, Juwan Howard, so it's not an unnatural progression, and it's definitely a part of what we're kind of seeing now, as it relates to, sports.
Yeah, or they either go to the sportscaster or they go to the sports
talk. Well, he tried that. He tried to choke Stephen.
Which that wasn't working for him. But
that's why a podcast would be great, because a podcast, he could literally just sit in his living room with a microphone and talk about all the things that are wrong. There's a space for that. Like, we know we have there's a space for people who sit around and tell everybody else they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And people will listen to him because he is a former player. He is an MVP. He does have Super Bowls, his character. So that's what I thought he was going to do. When he was sitting there arguing back at the TV, I honestly said, oh, okay, he's going to start a podcast where he can basically just tell everybody that they're wrong, But when he said, I'm going back to play, I was like, what?
And that would have been a natural progression for him too, because he already brings his own following. He already brings his own fan base to the table. So it'll be a perfect venue for him to, put his feelings and thoughts out there and actually have engagement from others.
Right.
But one thing I will say, going back to the whole theme of this episode, growth, we see growth in everyone else's character but Lance's. So that tells us right there that Lance still needs to grow some more. We still need to see more growth with Lance's character. We see it with everyone else, but we don't see it with Lance. So I
agree. Now that I agree with.
So I think with Lance's character, we still need to see some growth with him. It seems like we're also seeing where Jordan's now starting to experience some level of stress or health issues as it relates to her job. It seems like she's 100% focused on building her career and less focused on self-care. So I think with the headaches, I think we're starting to see where Jordan's going to have some health issues maybe.
Oh, I missed that. Okay. I saw her trying to meditate, but I didn't know. I thought the headache was connected to her trying to, getting dragged on the internet and trying to make this show work. But that could be like you said, you see those early signs. So that could very well be
I think that's the natural thing to assume that that's what her character is going to experience next, because really Jordan doesn't really have much of a storyline until we get to the end of this episode. So I think to bring health issues as it relates to stress, and those stress-related health issues are sometimes not as visible to us as physical health issues.
I agree.
So,
that's why I was fussing at you about all them headaches, but I ain't gonna say that.
But that's my point. As a person who recognizes that I take on more and I don't release more, it builds up to a point where it starts to affect your health.
It does. That's true.
Whether it's your sleeping, whether it's your physical, how you feel. So I think that's what we're seeing. I think that was a prelude to what we're going to see in episodes to come, that I think Jordan is going to experience some type of health-related issue. It could be a thyroid issue. It could be a migraine issue. or it could be a bigger issue. But I think the center point of it is the stress from her job and the fact that she feels like, as a black woman who's in charge, I have to work harder than most. I
Right.
have to do more than most. So I think that we are seeing her. We saw it in the first two episodes, even with Will trying to tell her to put the phone down, and she was working while she was on vacation.
Yeah.
I
And
think
when they went with the shaman, that was her
ex-
her revelation when they were on the beach.
that she
Was
needs
her
to
work.
focus more on herself. So
Work balance, yeah.
when the
The other,
assistant
yeah.
when the
So I think it
assistant
was
was trying to
two.
take care of her, that was the first thing I thought about. I was like, oh yeah, she's gonna have some issues because of
Yeah.
the job.
We see, so there's two other kind of, I think, major scenes. One, we saw a scene with Jordan and Harper,
Harper.
and that was again because I think that's where we're going with the two of them eventually, because of the scene we saw at the beginning. I feel like that was you see that they're still very much best friends. They're still each other's confident. They're still each other's best cheerleaders. Like, he's telling her to go for it, she's telling him to go for it, and supporting the vision without any hesitation. And I think sometimes I don't think people realize sometimes how hurtful the hesitation can be. Because you might ultimately be like, go for it. Yeah, that's a good idea. But it's that hesitation to say, well, are you sure? Well, you got your family. Well, you got your wife. Well,
Right.
But she was like, okay, if you want to change directions, do it. And when she was, talking about the show and stuff, and he was like, don't second guess yourself. Like, your instincts have always worked for you. Like, you didn't get where you were by second guess. And I just think that the two of them would just boom each other's cheerleaders, like boom, boom, boom.
What we don't see with him and Robin. So I agree with you on that.
Right.
I think we are leaning more towards them building up Jordan and Harper's character are soulmates, and Robin is just a replacement. She's a good replacement, but she's not the one.
Right.
She's not the one for him, because you are absolutely right. They are always supportive of each other's endeavors, and they both have their own individual goals, but it doesn't seem to conflict with their friendship and their relationship. Like, you want to try something different, go for it. I got you. And I think that's exactly where the writing is taking us. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah. And then the other scene, of course, we see them at the bar, Harper, Quentin,
And Merch.
Was Lance there too? But we see that there's a guy that they went to college with, was at the bar with them, and looks aka Terry Silver.
Terry Silver. Oh my God, we got Terry Silver back.
aka Terry Silver. if you're a Power fan, you know who we talking about. Looks like there may be something brewing there between him and Jordan. So we'll see where that takes us into episode 4.
The character's name is Demetrius, and by all appearances, it seems like the assistant may have invited him out. They were out for like a little Thursday type vibe, and how the assistant knew who this person was and how they were connected to Jordan, they didn't really make that clear to us. But I think we're going to see something between Jordan and Demetrius, because it seems like they may have been college, they may have dated or something back in college, or had some type of dealings in the past. And I think that they're going to flush that out in the next couple episodes. And I really hope that they don't spend too much time, because I don't like Terry Silver's character. I don't like the actor myself. If they would have casted someone else to be that person, I may have been more interested. And I guess because we've been invested in seeing where this Will character was going to go with her, the guy that she
I was like, where's Will? Because didn't he say he lived in New York?
He said he had business from time to time in New York.
Okay, so maybe we haven't seen the last of him.
Maybe we haven't, but
I just want to know what he whispered in her ear that scared her. Because I just want to know what he into that made her be like, oh, nah, we good.
I don't know. Maybe some bondage.
Right. Maybe he into some kink, and she was like, nah, I'm good.
I don't think so. But that would have been nice to see Will show up and see where that would have gone, because they've given us a bit of a interest there. Even though I don't think that, like I said in the last episode, I don't think that those two are compatible per se. But it would have been nice to see them have a little romance or do a little casual dating or something like that, and to see how she and him would have interacted. But I guess we're going to see what this Demetrius character is going to bring.
I
I guess
guess.
the last thing I want to talk about in this episode is uh, what do you think is next? What do you foresee happening next based off of what we've seen
Well, I
so far?
definitely see Lance bombing in the NFL. I don't know if he even makes it to a team, or if he gets out of training camp or gets off the bench. But I definitely that I mean, we've seen that. We've seen that before. We've seen athletes unretire, come back, and some of them are successful for a minute. But the position that he plays, a running back, we see. I mean, the average life of a running back in the NFL is like 5 or 6 years anyway. As you know, on that top level. I don't know. I mean, I definitely see that bombing. I feel like Harper's first book isn't going to do that great because he has to create a whole new fan base. People who read rom-com romance novels generally aren't the people who read Baldwin. Now I'm the type of person I read all of it, but generally you have your groups. So I see all of them maybe taking a dip. Let me say that because I see Harper kind of falling off a little bit. I think obviously he gets back, but I see that not going well in the beginning. Um, I think Regina's character, I think she's successful in getting her PhD, but I think her and Munch kind of are going to have to hit a crossroad because I think they're going to clash in that. Okay, we've been running. You've been on your career track. I've been playing Mr. Mom. Boom. I think something's going to give there. I don't know what's going to happen with Quentin and Shelby, but I don't think anything. I don't know.
Well, speaking of Quentin and Shelby, one thing I did like, and it goes back to the whole growth thing, I really love how he supported her when she was kind of reticent
Yeah.
about how she's going to do in the next filming for the show. And he
Right.
was
He was like, "You
totally
got this."
supportive. He was totally supportive of that. And
Yeah.
that was so unexpected of his character. I really expected his character to come in and say, "Why are you wasting your time with this? You need to stick to the reality thing. That's what you're good at, screaming and hollering and everything." But he really encouraged her to introduce the world to the side of Shelby that I fell in love with. So I really, really appreciated that scene between the two of them because even though they have been presented to us as the most toxic relationship, they seem to have the most stability in their relationship as far as in supporting each other's uh natural progression. Because Quentin, we saw this with Quentin in the last few installments, and even up to the last few episodes, Quentin didn't really have a career. He was all over the place. He was trying to do the music thing. He was trying to do photography. Now that he's full time in the family business, we're seeing a different side of Quentin that we haven't seen previously, and that's the business side of Quentin and him running a multi-million-dollar um, company, and at the same time being a supportive husband and not that playboy that's out here, hitting every woman that he comes in contact with. We really see him
Hmm.
growing as a husband and as a businessman. So I really appreciated that. And I really appreciated how Shelby took that advice from her friend and her husband, and she went back and we saw when she did the next taping, she nailed it.
Hmm.
So I think what we're going to see next with them is more of that. I think we're going to see more of those two characters growing to be that true power couple. Because right now, it ain't Harper and Robin. It could be Merch and Candace, but on a different level. With Quentin and Shelby, they're in the public eye. So they're truly growing to be that power couple, and I don't think that they're going to let the things from their past or anything come between their marriage. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what's next for the two of them.
I agree. I'm here for it.
I'm here for it too. So we'll be back later on this week with episode 4. If you're watching this on the replay, catch us on Wednesday at 8 p.m. We're going to talk about riches.
Yes.
We're gonna be doing a live on Riches, so I want y'all to come and check that out. If you haven't, you got a little time now to go ahead and go to Amazon Prime and watch Riches. It's what, 6 episodes?
Yes, it's a quick watch. It's only 6 episodes, and it's a really good show.
Yes. And so we'll be back live with you guys on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern to talk about Riches. And we'll get another episode out of Best Man, the Final Chapters, probably later towards the end of the week. We'll get you episode 4 out. So we appreciate it. Make sure you like, comment. We want to talk about it. We want to continue these conversations. Share the video out. And we'll see you guys later on this week. Really B, you got anything else you want to add, Mom?
No, no, nothing I can think of off the top of my head.
All right, guys. Well,
come on back.
Come on back. All right, we'll see you guys later on this week.